Okay, awesome. Let's get started. So, like I mentioned before, we are on Tuesday. So we're going to be going over what articles you can search for your current events quarter 1 project. And there's a lot of articles, but I'm hopefully here to help you maybe find the correct one for you. Okay, and how to search for them pretty easily. Okay, so focus on that today. So right now, you should be on your classwork tab of your Google Classroom. So on the quarter project, go to instructions. We're going to go to instructions. So let's go there. To instructions. Ooh, am I still lagging? Hold up. Sorry about that. It seems to be that I am lagging, so I am going to slow down. And so we should be on instructions on quarter 1 project. Please click on the physics current events Google Doc. Again, click on the current events quarter 1 project Google Doc, the instructions. Okay. You should be here right now. Over the session, but the main part I would like for you to focus on is the box right here. Okay. So once again, I want to scroll down to the green box where it says websites you can use to help you. I see some scholars are already here. Awesome. I love you guys are there. So once again, green box, and then websites you can use to help you. That's where we will. Okay, let's go to one of those websites. Let's go to the one that says Popular Science. Right. So let's click on that. And it will take us to Popular Science. And there you go. As you can see, this Popular Science magazine is kind of like a newsletter magazine where you can search for a lot of things going on. Oh no! Oh no! I'm sorry, scholars. So it seems that the website is blocked, but hopefully by the time you watch this, it will be unblocked. But for now, for my my students watching this recording and for the ones watching right now on the Zoom session, just look at my screen for now. Okay, for now, just look at my screen. It seems like I already got update that Mr. Lovelace is going to unblock it. Awesome. So for right now, just look at my screen. If you look at the main menu, it's just a lot of articles of different things going on. So there's research on why brains need sleep. There's research on whale roadkill is on the rise of California. So it means a lot of whales run, ending up on the shore side. If you go here, you're talking about 1/3 of his parents say the 1/3 of their kids the flu vaccine. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. But in every website, there's always a search button. So if you go to the top left, there is a search button where you can just basically search for a lot of stuff. So I'm going to search for vectors. That's something that we can go over. As you can see, because I am super loud. As you can see, there's about 31 results for vectors. And here you can basically just look for a lot of ones you want. You can look out pixels, you can look about vector drawings from art. There's been some research on pollinating bees that are delivery people for the future. Apparently, they use the technique called bee vectoring, where they go specific direction and they find the quickest path to go, which is what vectors are, right? There's a lot of things right here that you can actually search for. some word about the Zika case virus. So the first vector transmitted Zika case right here. So the first specific transmitted case right here. So there's a lot of things here you can search for. If I go back to the top, and let's say I search for something else. Let's say I search for, let's say, kinetic energy. Awesome. So it seems I'm still having a lot of laggy issues, so I apologize for that. However, if you go to popular science, like I said, there's already some stuff you can search for on the top left, and let's search for kinetic energy. Okay. Once it loads. And as you can see, there's already some research on this. So kinetic energy for the Formula One racing. This is about sexual energy, which I don't think you guys want to look into, but if you want to, go for it. Entire country of Puerto Rico runs on renewable energy for 4 days. So this was kind of cool as well. So let's do for that one. Let's go for the first one. Kinetic energy for Formula One. So if I click on it, it talks about how generation can bring car racing into the green era. So it's talking about basically how Formula One is becoming one of the great innovators for green energy. Green energy. It says here that they installed a kinetic energy recovery system which uses a rotating flywheel to store and accelerating vehicles' kinetic energy. So they're reusing the energy. They're reusing the energy. So right here, they're basically reusing the energy. So this topic, this article is very, very appropriate for what we have been learning, kinetic energy. If you go down here, there's some Q&As as well. This article is very specific. It has Q&A questions as well, which you can use. And it has who wrote the article. So Adrian Moore. Okay. So this is a pretty article on that one. Okay. Awesome. Let's look for another one. Let's go back to physics current tense. And let's go to New York Times. Let's go to New York Times. So once again, go back to physics current events and go to the green box and search and click on the New York Times website. Okay. Hopefully this one is not. If not, that will be very sad. Awesome. So hopefully you are there. If you can just watch my screen. And you can see there's some stuff going on right now. So Black Microbiology about talking about the pandemic. We have some where these lizards, some alligator lizards. So there's a lot of current events happening here right now. You know, talking about viruses, talking about the whales again. So there's a lot of things going on here, right? But if you always, like I said, there's always a search button around here, right? So you go to the top left right here, there's a magnifying glass. And if you search, you can actually search whatever you want though. Let's do something different. Let's do gravity. Let's do gravity. Maybe let's go gravity. Gravitational potential energy. And look at this. It already has some stuff right here specifically for science. It talks about Galileo's spacecraft looping around the Earth. It talks about gravitational waves. It talks about marine energy. You know, so it has things right here. I'm gonna go for the first one, the Galileo spacecraft. I'll go for the second one, the gravitational wave detected there. We didn't learn about gravity, but we did learn about gravitational potential energy. So that will be applicable. So there's a video here apparently, and here is talking about gravitational waves, which have to do with potential energy. So this is also a pretty good article that you can use to talk about energy. Okay. So pretty simple ones. Okay. This actually has a video in case you want to watch the video as well. Okay. So it's a pretty good one. It's about 4 years ago, so it's still pretty current. I feel like they're still doing these kind of stuff. So here is another one right here. If you always want to search, if you click CTRL-F, you can actually search for specific words. So CTRL-F, you can literally search for specific things like, let's do energy. See, talk about energy right here. And you can click on the arrow and talking about losing energy, about visible light. So it talks about stuff like that. If you want to be specific, you can talk about conservation, which is not there, which sucks. But if you search for energy, it will be there. Okay. So that way you can just search for things quickly. Let's do one more. Let's go all the way to the top and let's search for something different. Let's search for measurements. We went over measurements, right? So it seems these are interesting things, not what I was thinking about, but trying to see what these have to do with measurements. Obviously, that search was a fail, which sucks, but you can always specify it. Let's see, let's go to science. So if you go to section, go to science, you can actually filter it. America has 2 feet, it's about to lose one of them. Oh, okay, that's intense. How do you solve a moon mystery? Measurements and menopause. Oh, okay, I guess that's something as well. Refine the art of measurement. So these are some other websites you could, some other articles you can look for as well. If you're a big fan of Star Trek, I guess this is one right here. But basically, you can always refine them as well. So if I go for type, I want to go for article, I can refine them as well. If I want to do a range, if I want to talk about maybe this past year, I can also refine them as well. See, now it's refined for this past year. So you can filter things pretty quickly. Oxygen on Mars adds to atmospheric mysteries. So, it has some pretty good things there, okay? My scholars watching, any questions on the New York advancement of science? As you can see, there are some current events happening as well. Moon safe for long-term human exploration. Ooh, that's pretty cool. And there's a lot of things right here. It is blocked. Okay, it has come to my attention that it's also blocked, but hopefully by the time you watch this video, it will be unblocked. And for my Zoom scholars, hopefully it will be unblocked in a couple of minutes. Okay, so just watch right now. Just watch my watch record. Okay. So once again, you can always go to the top area, and you can always look for the search button, which is in this case, it's in the top right. So what I want to search for, let's search for, once again, search for vectors again. Here are your filters. You can actually filter them. Like I want to filter them through, let's say, just science specifically. Let's see, I want to be specific with news, because current events. And let's say publication date, let's do maybe a year ago. So September of 2019. To perhaps right now, September 2020. Like right here. Okay. And then let's update the search. And as you can see, there's some options right here. Virus use in gene therapies may pose cancer risks. And it highlights your words, vectors, vectors, and vectors. And so these are pretty good. Just slow the spread of coronavirus, past outbreak for right clues. If we search for that one, let's say we actually go to this one. And then we do Control F. We can search for vectors. And talk about twice. So the little vector from circulation. I don't know what that means, but you can always read this and see if it's appropriate. Some articles will not be related to science, to what we're going over. That's your job to find out if it's applicable for you or not. Okay. So basically, just I'm gonna stop right there. Hopefully, I'm gonna make sure that all the sites are unblocked, because it seems like there's some of them are blocked. However, basically, you can use these websites, or you can also just go to Google and search for some of them. So if you go to just Google, not mail, just google.com. Not mail. Okay, how about this? There you go. You search for, how about like science articles about vectors. And here's some articles right here, scientific matter, what are vectors and how are they used? So there's a lot of things you can do. You can search, you can go to news, on the news tab, and here talk about specific things going on in the world that have to do with vectors. So you guys are smart. You guys can use a lot of things. You guys are pretty smart. The internet's a very wide ocean. So you guys can use these according to your own will, okay? But you can always use the Control F to specifically search for things. Control F, vectors, and it pops up and highlights stuff for you. You can use filters. So maybe use tools and then you can filter them, like maybe the past year. And then by relevance, so like maybe it has to do with by the date, right here. So use filters, use Control F, use your brain. I'm pretty sure you guys will be able to figure out things out, okay? But I'm gonna start the recording here because I feel like the recording has been already long. But this is helpful things and how to find articles that could be appropriate to what we have learned in physics. I got a question saying, what if we want to do it off a movie like gravitational potential energy, like Spider-Man does that? Let's stick with articles. But if you're able to find an article that talks about how Spider-Man defies energy or is using a lot of, because Spider-Man swings, right? He swings. If you are able to search for an article that talks about Spider-Man swinging and conserving energy, okay, go for it. But let's stick with articles, okay?